What's up, guys? My name is Mariah. I own Lifted Rippers, and this is my 1982 Jeep J10. So I started Lifted Rippers a couple of years ago, basically because I had created a name for myself, Mariah970 on Instagram, and I wanted to make sure that I could create a company that I could combine lifted trucks and fishing. And so after some timing, it took us putting the names Lifted Rippers together for fishing and trucks, and that's how we started. I grew up on a ranch, and so big lifted trucks was always a thing that I loved. I had a Tacoma growing up, and then I decided to go into the big dog leagues. And my thing was, what is the biggest show and the most prominent show of the world? And that's SEMA. And I said, how can I get a truck to SEMA? And that is where my first F-250 build came from. After being into the big lifted truck scene, I decided that I wanted to keep doing it. Obviously, owning Lifted Rippers has opened my eyes to the newer trucks and the older trucks. But I do have one special and near and dear to my heart, and it is my 1982 Jeep J10. The reason why it is so close to me is that I grew up driving this truck. It has been a single family owned truck. My dad bought it brand new in 1982. I drove it around the ranch growing up, and since then it's just been kind of history. I begged my dad to let me have or buy the Jeep from him in high school. He said no, and it was probably a good thing. And then in college again, I was like, I really want that Jeep. Can I have it? Can I buy it? He said, no way. And then it was my very first year that I showed my F-250 that my dad actually came to SEMA and said, you know, you guys do great things with trucks. He saw that we had started Lifted Rippers and saw what we were doing with trucks and the custom automation side. So he said, I'm going to gift you this truck under one condition: you can't sell it. And since then, we decided, again, why not go big? SEMA is the biggest show of the entire year. You have to be invited to go. And I wanted to do something to a Jeep that not only meant something to me, but it was part of my family and history, but, you know, put our own Lifted Rippers flair on it and make it custom. So getting this Jeep, it wasn't completely stock. My dad had painted it. He had redone the interior on it. It still is the same original engine. I wanted to try and keep the J10 as much of an original Jeep as I possibly could, just because it was part of my roots growing up. I knew I wanted to lift it and make it a little bit higher to the sky and put some bigger tires and wheels on it, but I did want to keep that original factor to it just because it is a vintage truck. So I combined my shop with another shop to try and come up with this goal that I had in mind to make this Jeep one of a kind, since it is the 11th rarest Jeep in the world, but also try and keep it close to home since it is something that I grew up driving. So I came up with the ideas of have some suspension underneath, keep the original frame, keep the original engine, and just kind of replace everything to make it look pretty. New bodywork, new paint, do a custom one-off pearl with a red flake in it, and we have custom forged Amani wheels on it and Venom tires. So my whole idea behind the Jeep was something that people don't see every day. A lot of the Jeeps, and not to start drama, but a lot of the Jeeps out there are the same thing. It's the same lift kits, it's the same wheels, it's the same tires. I wanted to do something that would be a wow factor and really grab the attention, because this Jeep deserves all of the attention. Like I said, it's near and dear to my heart. I grew up learning how to drive on it, so I wanted to give it the love that it deserved, and I feel like we did that. I know there was a lot of drama behind every truck build, as there always is, and combining two shops to build the Jeep was probably the hardest part, because we not only were the shops super far in distance, but there were a lot of factors that played in to have it done by a certain deadline, and we felt that. We debuted the truck at a Jeep Fest before it had even been bodyworked or painted, and it did really well. The whole world seemed to love it. We had a custom rear drive shaft on it and didn't have the front drive shaft yet. We tried to do some burnouts on it and make it to wild things. And the heat that we got from it was a little bit wild. We had some people that absolutely loved it, and we had some people that sent me hate letters to my shop because they thought I had ruined a vintage truck. So it definitely did exactly what we had thought it would do. Preparing the Jeep for SEMA is all about starting with a rendering and getting a creative mind behind it to what exactly you want to do. I wanted to do a little bit higher build. Josh wanted to go the direction of a Baja style. We slightly compromised in the middle. We had another shop involved, RKV, who did the suspension, the bodywork, and the paint. We all thought we were on board with how high we wanted to go and the custom suspension, and from there, it kind of took its own little twists and turns, as every truck build does. It's a little bit taller than I think I wanted it. So we're going to probably have to throw some bigger tires on it as it's kind of eating the 38. But our whole idea behind it, again, was to keep the originality of this being such a rare Jeep, but also make it a custom flare. So behind it, getting ready for SEMA is probably the hardest thing you can do because it's the biggest critics in the world that are there showcasing and showing every flaw that you have. Bodywork is the hardest part on the Jeep just because it is a 1982. It lived most of its life in Colorado, which is where I'm from. So there was like a lot of rust spots, dings, dents. It took a lot, growing up with it. I know what we did to that Jeep. I know what my family did to that Jeep. So there was a lot of work that went into it. It still isn't 100%, but again, it's a 1982, so the bodywork is going to take a little bit more time to get exactly perfect. I knew from the start that this 82 was going to be a wild hit for everybody involved. Jeeps are a massive hit in the US, probably the #1 bought and aftermarketed vehicle out there. So I knew that going with a rendering and approaching companies was going to be a huge hit. I had a lot of naysayers. A lot of people said, you'll never finish it in time, you'll never do it. But I will say I have a good team behind me. I have Venom Tires that immediately said, absolutely, let's do something together. I worked with Vortec at the very beginning. So my first set of wheels on this Jeep were Vortec, and they're black and they're beautiful. I love them. That was how we showcased it first at the very first show. And I then switched to a Monty Forged, same company, just went to a fully forged wheel. I did a 20 by 12 just to give it a little bit of shine since the overlays are polished, so they all kind of brings it together. On the interior, I have a full audio system by Retro Manufacturing. My shocks are locked off-road, and all the hard work and sweat is Lifted Rippers and RKV. If you've ever built any kind of vehicle, whether it's for show or not, you know that there's going to be a ton of challenges, and we ran into a lot of challenges. We started the whole idea and build behind going to SEMA with the Jeep to showcase it back in March of last year, 2023, and we hit the ground running with it. We had lots of great ideas. We had the rendering for it. It went to the shop for the bodywork, the paint, and the suspension. RKB got started on it immediately. Things get crazy with SEMA crunch. That is kind of a short time. March to November is a little bit faster than some people do, but still an ample amount of time for us to get it done. The idea was to take it to one shop, have them do the bodywork, paint, suspension, have that be finished, then Lifted Rippers would get it back in our shop so we could do all the lighting, the audio, the engine, and anything else that needed to make it pretty and make it run good. As anything happens, we crunched really hard for the show. That was where we debuted it the first time before it was finished, and after that, it kind of just slowly went downhill. I know the shop that RKB, they did a great job, but they had other SEMA trucks in the shop with them. So my Jeep and another truck were both at a crunch to get finished, and it definitely kind of came falling apart. There was moments of a week before SEMA, they called me and said, hey, your Jeep is not going to make it. And my relationships with companies, I felt like that needed to happen. I have people that came on board with me, Monty Forged, Venom Tires, Retro Manufacturing, Walked Off Road. They all came together knowing that my Jeep would make it. And so I basically said to Josh and Lifted Rippers and RKB, like, we have to make it. This Jeep has to go. So we hit the ground running again with a crazy crunch. We were definitely past our time. The bed was not even painted until the day we left. The bed was getting placed on the Jeep and literally driven onto the trailer. It was a wild ride. There was a lot of tension in the shops. Everybody was arguing and fighting as normal. And it was a wild time. I wouldn't say that even now it's 100%. We made it to SEMA without a front drive shaft. And, a few things here and there were leaking. It was front row and center at SEMA, which was probably the biggest deal. I don't think any of us realized how much attraction it was going to get in that spot. But I got truck rights for the first time. I got a lot of YouTubes about the Jeep, either good or bad. People saying me with the first of its kind rear custom cut drive shaft, they said it wasn't going to work. They said it would never be. They even said it wasn't safe. So there were a lot of clapbacks that I had to try and get onto. Again, not having a front drive shaft, we got made fun of for that. There was a lot of missing parts and pieces that could have made this build just a little bit better. But I feel like now that we're back, the Jeep is now back in the Lifted Ripper shop, that we're good. We have a front drive shaft. We're working on more engine work and more exhaust work, and the audio is going to be even better than it was before. So now that we have it in our possession, it's going to be great. I think just it being the 11th rarest Jeep in the world to me, and it being close to my home, I wanted to just showcase it in general, to be able to show the world like what two shops could do And when I was approached by having a custom cut drive shop, the first of its kind, I was like, we are going to get a lot of hate for it, but I'm here for it. I love it. It's different. So I definitely think showcasing it with one first of its kind drive shaft and keep the originality of it from the frame up, I thought the two combined was going to give it enough positive and negative side effects. And we've had a lot of publicity on the drive shaft so far. They are weighted and balanced. It's thicker DOM material. It is harder to do burnout in this truck because it is quadra-track. So Joshua with Lifted Rippers is working hard at figuring out how we can do this perfect burnout on concrete for everybody. But until then, we still have the originality. We now have a front drive shaft that is also custom cut. So now they match. And I think that was my favorite and most excited part of this, was to show the world that we could do something different instead of doing the same old builds. I have to say that this was a memorable journey for this Jeep in a most negative way. Usually you build vehicles and it's stressful, it's expensive, it causes a lot of tension, especially when you're involving multiple shops. I think that the worst part is that I was given this Jeep from my dad, and he supported the whole decisions of what we had to make in the beginning, and then at the end he absolutely hates it. He said we destroy the Jeep. It ruins a lot of our friendship together. He said that he didn't like any part of it, even though it was different, and it's never been better. This Jeep has been loved and touched in every part of it and been given a new life and reborn into new life. And I think the worst part of making memories to a huge show like SEMA was not only was it making it to SEMA, but he hated it. And so it kind of created a huge division. Not only did it create a division with there, but combining two shops, it's always incredibly hard. There were a lot of setbacks with one shop wasn't doing work fast enough, we weren't doing work fast enough, and it was just really hard in general to try and complete something that I felt like got put on the back burner a lot of the times in another shop. And it just created a lot of, I guess, heartache, because it ruined a relationship with my dad, because he now has put the Jeep in between our relationship. And I felt like there is more animosities between us and the other shop because things weren't done the right way or in a timely fashion. And so now it just kind of seems like I took an heirloom and made it amazing and I love it, but it's kind of taken its own dark turn. I think this Jeep was probably the top 10 most talked about vehicles at SEMA. It's on so many podcasts, it's on YouTube, it's being bashed, it's being loved, it's been given the attention that it absolutely deserves. Again, it's different, and we didn't just build the same truck that everybody sees daily. It is something that catches the eye of the older generation and the newer generation, and it means something. So even that, people really can tell the love and heart and soul that we really put into this Jeep build. I'm really surprised that I got so much hate from fellow enthusiasts and other YouTubers and social media influencers. I figured we all go to these showcase something different. And the biggest thing right now in the truck world is that everybody does the same thing. Everybody has the same lifts, the wheels, the tires. So here I was showcasing something that was completely custom. We took the 11th rarest Jeep and made it even more rare. It'll never be duplicated or replicated. And then the hate that I got from fellow enthusiasts, instead of them trying to come up to me and try and do an interview about the custom drive shafts or the customization that we did to this truck, instead they took it negatively, like, this isn't gonna work, this is unsafe. And to me, I don't feel like RKV or Lifted Rippers would ever build anything that was unsafe. And so it kind of hit home a little bit that these were people that I looked up to for so many years that were blasting it. But I will say that I've only been in the automotive industry for less than 3 years. And to be able to have my Jeep on social media, and they never once say Mariah or Lifted Rippers, but they say the Jeep, everybody knows what the Jeep is. And to me, that's winning, because it's obviously impressed enough people that is living rent-free in a lot of people's heads. So professionally speaking, the Jeep has done amazing things for our shop. It brought a lot of heart and soul. People love to put their heart and soul into their trucks, because most of us, I should say, love our trucks more than we love most people. So I think that as far as professionally, the Jeep has really impacted everybody. As far as personally, I think that it has opened up my eyes to what cool things we can do, and I'm already looking at the next thing to do to the Jeep and ready to make it even better. I get reached out to by so many females in the automotive world about building a car or a truck or even a vintage vehicle, and I love it. I love to see so many women out there following their dreams, whether they are actually physically building their trucks or they just have the brains and even money behind it. I absolutely love it. I think the women are taking over the automotive industry, and I couldn't be more happy about it. We do get a lot of hate, so if you're thinking or planning on building a vehicle, just know you better have a backbone, because you will get hated on, you'll get naysayers, you'll get companies that don't want to work with you because you're female. You'll get all of the hate comments from other men saying, you don't know how to actually build your truck, you don't know what you're doing, and maybe you don't, but it's not about that. At the end of the day, it's about what you want to build and how you want to showcase it. And I say be original, do something that you want to do, because it's your money, it's your time, and you have to absolutely love your build at the end of the day. You don't have to go huge with it, you don't have to go anything crazy color. Do what you want to do and have a backbone while doing it, because confidence is key when you're going to get into this industry. Lifted Rippers could not be done without the professionals behind the scenes. Joshua McLean and I work hard every day. Josh is the brains behind all the mechanical side, the lift kits, the diesel repairs, anything else. You see him working hard. A lot of times you guys just see my face. It's because I take the forefront of getting you guys the lowest prices in the industry. I truly believe that there is a place for everybody in this truck world, and I don't want to be the company that charges or overcharges anybody. I want to be able to give back to everybody that wants to have and showcase a cool truck build. So I like to be the social media front runner of it, whereas Joshua is more behind the scenes, and he is the go-to man for anything automotive.